I'm grateful to Bridget for her insight. I don't wish to be rude, Henry, of course, but has Bridget read the news recently?
What do you just, Bridget? I'm going to ask about the news. What I mean, does that concern you? What we've seen, sort of images we've seen, and the sort of Epstein files.
It absolutely does. I mean, it's the victims you feel for. I mean, Andrew's obviously a very wealthy, person that people want to be in the years ago would want to be around. So I can see
the concern.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I mean. It's the victims I feel sorry for. You keep seeing it on the news, and it's not very nice.
No, it's not. Thank you, Bridget, again, for stopping with us. Cheers, and Tom says thank you as well. There you go, Tom.
Is there a Pizza Express nearby? Just asking.
I did check. There's a Pizza Express in Kings Lynn, I think, about 20 minutes away. Yeah, about 20-minute drive away in Kings Lynn. There's a Pizza Express, a bit further to the Woking one.
Right. Henry, thank you very much indeed. Henry Riley, obviously reporting Sandringham, where he's going to be, that is Andrew, not Henry Riley, waved at and smiled at by some of the people there. I mean, really? 03456060973 is the number. Martin's in Robert Hive. Martin.
I don't think this will damage the royal family as much as some people think. I mean,
we've got Bridget there smiling and waving on us, riding us all to the pub.
Yeah, that was quite incredible. As horrific as the allegations are, there is concrete proof that there's been major cover-ups in the royal family. Other than that, most people in their families have rotten apples. I mean, I've got some. I'm sure a lot of your listeners have right now. And, to tar all of them because of one man's alleged actions, I just don't think it's fair.
There's no shooing off the monarchy itself because of all of this.
If you're somebody that's a Republican, this is Christmas come early for you. This is the best day, the best 10 days of your life. If you're like me, I'm not a fanatic for the royal family, but I think on balance they've been more for the country than the negatives.
But do you not think, the idea, Martin, that a paedophile billionaire, financier, whatever, was invited into places like Buckingham Palace, the kind of places that as proud Brits we are meant to sort of revere, just darkens it all. And it's not like that he was accidentally invited. He was invited by a senior member of the royal family.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's repulsive. These allegations are as bad as it gets. But as I say, unless in the coming days and weeks we start to, more of these Epstein files start to get released, and we really start to learn that the royal family were, really involved in trying to cover things up. Unless we get to that stage, I think we should just maybe hang fire with really going after the rest of the royal family right now.
All right, Martin, appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. 03456060973. That's the core element of this. There is the major political element to all of this. There's a very fractious debate taking place in the House of Commons this afternoon on to what extent the government is going to release communications around the appointment of Madison as ambassador. But an astonishing revelation from the Prime Minister himself this afternoon that the Prime Minister knew there was an ongoing relationship between Madison and Epstein when Madison was appointed as ambassador. There's been a massive reaction to that. There's lots of reporting about what it was the Prime Minister was told. We're going to get into all of it over the course of the next few hours as well. We'll dive into the debate, and you will hear shortly from MI6 Russia desk chief about the suggestion that Epstein was a Russian agent. Stand by. Tom Swarbrick on LBC 416.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goldfrath. Using the M25 and ticket watch when the is closed before junction 23 for the A1M South News, but it's back to that. It's slightly thorough the A13 east in Child's Hill, that's Lane Bridge closed to both directions between Hermitage Lane and Hollycroft Avenue. That's because of a fire at house queues. On the trains, I've got a number of problems this morning. Thames Link have no service between Cambridge and Brighton and Manchester. West Bay to X7 also have no service between Epsom and London Bridge. There's also a reduced southern service between London Bridge and Norwood Junction and between West Croydon and Victoria. And on London Overground, there's no service on Windrush now between Sydney and West Croydon.
With Andrew Moore from 6 p.m. The Epstein and Madison scandal is being described as the greatest this country has
from 6 p.m. Listen on our free global player app or DLBC.
That quiet moment behind the wheel. The perfect space to get your thoughts in order. With the stylish HRV hybrid, you get the head-turning design you want, with the space and flexibility you actually need. Because every journey matters. Explore the full Honda range online at honda.co.uk. Honda, the power of dreams.
Call Thomas Walker 0345 6060 LBC.
If you bought a home in a holiday park in the UK, what you thought you were getting may not be what you ended up with. From unexpected site fee increases, running costs, a huge depreciation in value, many owners feel they've been missold. If you think this might be you, holidayparkadvicecentre.co.uk could help you receive the compensation you're entitled to. Text ASSIST to 78900 to find out more. That's ASSIST to 78900. How does a 20-ton end up being used as a bomb detector in war zones? I'm Celine, and this is Explosive Facts. The podcast exposing the scandal called governments and security services across the world. Open our free global player app and search Explosive Lies to start listening today.
The Volkswagen Phantom Ding Dong Fortnite is here.
Stop. We've been through this, Harry. It's the Volkswagen Fantastic Fortnight. Much love.
Oh, okay. From the 2nd to the 16th of February, the Volkswagen Fantastic Fortnight gives you an extra £1,000 towards your finance deposit on top of existing Polo, Golf, Tiguan, and our all-electric ID3, 4 and 5 with Solutions PCP 7.9% APR representative. Designated as the Volkswagen retailer now. Offering 16th of February. Better?
Perfect.
Indemnities may be required. Volkswagen Financial Services.
At TFL, we're helping make roads safer. We're continuing to roll out lower speed limits because 20 miles per hour roads have already seen 24% fewer collisions causing death or serious injury. We're also improving junctions to help keep you safe and improving visibility for bus drivers with new wing mirror cameras. Search TFL Improvement Plan. To the Mayor of London and TFL, every journey matters. Comparison of collisions data before and after implementation of 20 miles per hour speed limit.
Listen, I do it. Listen, your smart speaker. Just say, ABC.
Yesterday, incredibly busy afternoon with huge implications for the British government and now the British Prime Minister. I just want to take you live, if I can, to the House of Commons. There is a debate going on about to what extent the government is going to release information relating to the appointment of Madison as ambassador.
Check of spent and history, criminal records, credit history, a check of security service records, and an interview, not just of the candidate, but also of the referees that have been supplied by a trained investigator. I think we will need to see the outcome of that report, even if it can only be provided as the government has now conceded to the Intelligence and Security Committee. But taken together with those three processes, the Prime Minister still decided there was no obstacle to the appointment of Pete Madison as Ambassador to the United States.
That's John Whittingdale, former Conservative Cabinet Minister. He is pointing to what the Prime Minister relayed to MPs earlier under questioning from the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, that yes, indeed, the Prime Minister was aware of an ongoing relationship between Madison and Epstein. The Prime Minister is now trying to say, well, I didn't know the extent of that relationship because Madison lied through his teeth. But the reality is, the Prime Minister does seem to have been presented with information that showed that Madison had a relationship with Epstein beyond the point at which Epstein had been convicted of soliciting a minor. And there's reporting in the New Statesman this afternoon, which I think further genuinely impairs the Prime Minister's position. The New Statesman reports that sources familiar with the report on Madison the Prime Minister confirm it clearly that Madison's relationship with the paedophile continued after his conviction for soliciting a minor for prostitution. The New Statesman says the report that went to the Prime Minister contained links to photographs of Mandelson with the paedophile, and drew particular attention to evidence that Mandelson had stayed at Epstein's apartment while Epstein, was in prison. It was sent directly to the Prime Minister, the New Statesman this afternoon says. I mean, the Prime Minister is in serious bother with all of this now. Because it's not a case that the Prime Minister didn't know about any relationship between Mandelson and Epstein. The Prime Minister knew, and if these reports are right, knew that relationship continued beyond the point at which Epstein had been convicted, and that Mandelson had quite a close relationship because he'd stayed at his house, etc., etc. And still pointed him anyway. There's nobody better than this man. Really? Steve's in Thirsk. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Tom. The Royalist or Republican, this is about a matter of accountability for the institution of the head of state. The idea, this idea of the black family of the sheep, really winds me up because it really is winds up because it ignores the institutional side. This is a massive organisation that has hundreds and hundreds of people working for it and within it, and the royals are the CEO. So it's just nonsense. The king has weekly meetings, and the Queen did weekly meetings with the Prime Minister.
Indeed.
William and the monarch and the heir get red boxes for their briefs and all this stuff. They have
watched The Crown, haven't you, Steve?
Well, no, I just and this will be documentary about what the monarchy is for. But they get all of that. They're in contact with Metropolitan Police for their royal protection with all these people. The Royal Protection Office with them. The idea that these people didn't know what was going on is just absolutely nonsense. And we should, and the Queen shut down as well,
Yes, I mean,
the idea and the comparison with Mandelson is a really interesting one because I mean they're both horrible individuals as far as I'm concerned. Let's not be about the bush, but the speed at which things are happening to Mandelson now, as they did, the glacial things that happened with Andrew.
I have to say, I'm not sure I agree with you there, because I think you could make the case that what has happened to Mandelson has also been pretty glacial. The fact that Peter Mandelson was appointed as ambassador to the United States when the Prime Minister knew that Mandelson had an ongoing relationship with Epstein tells you that he wasn't traduced, brought down, brought low by having this relationship. He was promoted to being one of the most senior diplomats in Britain.
This was a couple of years ago. The photos of Andrew with Epstein came out in 2011. Okay? And that was after Epstein was convicted. We've known about Andrew and what he's been accused of since 2011. Okay? Madison's links have been known as well. But it's not one of the rules. We should be going after Rodney in all its forms and all levels of it.
But Steve, just on the
monarchy is opaque. Yes, the monarchy is opaque. There's done nothing to address this.
Listen, I would agree with you. I think they've moved very, very slowly. They've tried very hard to get away from this. One might understand why, because it is so damaging, and that's why I make the point about the monarchy generally rather than about potentially one royal. Steve, thank you very much indeed. I do just want to bring in, as I say, very busy afternoon. I do want to bring in LBC's deputy political editor, Aggie Chombre, who's been following this debate in the House of Commons, because the terms of the debate are shifting slightly.
The terms of the debate have shifted. So the government already knew last night they weren't going to win this vote. That's why they put down an amendment. Basically, that would have meant that they would have had to publish all of these vetting papers, except papers prejudicial to UK national security or international relations. But then,
this is about international relations.
Well, quite. But then they realised a few hours ago they weren't going to get that through. Angela Rayner standing up in the Commons basically suggesting that wasn't a goer. So what they've done now is they've amended their amendment. That's called a manuscript amendment. And so now that reads, except papers prejudicial to UK national security or international relations, which shall instead be referred to the Intelligence and Security Committee. And that, we think, means the Intelligence and Security Committee will go through those papers and could then publish them. But in the last few minutes, the Conservatives had said they will now back that amendment to the amendment. So there's now not going to be a vote, there's going to be a sort of nod through in the government and not going to have this massive moment of jeopardy members and after the MPs, they decided to rebel.
This is a bit in the weeds, I guess. But even in the management of this process of how do we get the information out that we think needs to get out, they screwed it up. They got it wrong. They put in terms and characteristics that their side couldn't back.
I don't think that is in the weeds. I think that's absolutely key to it, that they are, as Labour MPs would put it, terrible at politics, at the management of this stuff, and Labour MPs are just not going to give them the time of day to actually vote with them, and actually seem like they're more interested in what Angela Rayner, former deputy Labour leader, says, rather than what the Prime Minister is pushing through. And some of the messages I'm getting today, Tom, are absolutely astounding. I mean, one Labour MP who I spoke to earlier in the day said there was a less than 1% chance that the government fell today. They then revised that a few hours later and said, actually, you know what, now it's an 8% chance that the government falls today. They still don't think Keir Starmer will go today, but they do say, and they have said to me since then, I think it's hard to see him surviving Gorton and Denton, that key by-election, in a few weeks. Another person saying to me, if he can't, talking about Keir Starmer, get through an opposition day debate without amending the government position, Morgan, talking about Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff, should already be out of the door.
I mean, it just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it? Aggie, thank you very much indeed. Aggie Shnobby, overseas Deputy Political Editor. So we are going to get to those papers via the Intelligence and Security Committee because the government have changed the wording, the Tories are backing them. So we are going to see what it is the government knew or was told. Starmer knew or was told about appointing Mandelson, but Starmer himself has already admitted that he did know of an ongoing relationship. It goes from bad to worse for this Prime Minister, and we're only just out of January. 03456060973 is the number. Folks, there is other news, because coming up...
Next thing, the guy wanted to throw a left punch, and I met him with a right punch, and he went down.
We hail the bus driver, sacked for retrieving a stolen necklace from a thief on his bus. We bring together for the first time hero bus driver Mark Hire and the damsel in distress he helped. They're live together on the programme. After the 4:30 news headlines, Amelia Collins.
The Prime Minister has agreed to release sensitive documents relating to Peter Mandelson's appointment to the Intelligence Select Committee. Sir Keir Starmer has been forced to climb down following a rebellion from Labour MPs to limit the details released. The Health Secretary has told LBC Andrew Mountbatten Windsor should give evidence to Congress over what he knew about Jeffrey Epstein. The Current Office understood he was moved from his Windsor mansion to the Sandringham estate. And a man who poisoned children with sweets at a summer camp before sexually assaulting two of them has admitted drugging his wife. 76-year-old John Newman did it so she slept through the catalogue of abuse. LBC weather, spells of rain lingering in the north tonight. These will also move into southern areas, a low of freezing.
LBC this morning on Nick Ferrari at breakfast. What are we to make of Sir Keir Starmer's supposedly forensic barrister like skills, former director of public prosecutions, and he placed so much trust in Peter Mandelson to become our ambassador without apparently an interview and without the usual vetting? That's the social care sector we're treating for choice.
What we've seen is evidence of a shocking betrayal of two prime ministers of our country and our national interests.
Would this bring the government down?
I think that would be to let Peter Mandelson off. This is his misjudgment, his misconduct, his irresponsibility.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Back tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Tesco Insurance are driving down the cost of motoring with 10% off car insurance. Take out the car insurance policy before the 15th of May 2026 and you'll get 10% off with Club Car prices. We offer a range of cover options so you can choose the one that's right for you. Save 10% when you buy or renew a car policy with Tesco Insurance. Search Tesco Car Insurance and get a quote direct today. Club card required. Excludes add-ons. T's and C's apply.
Quiet moment behind the wheel. The perfect space to get your thoughts in order. With the stylish HR-V Hybrid, you get the head-turning design you want with the space and flexibility you actually need. Because every journey matters. Explore the full Honda range online at honda.co.uk. Honda, the power of dreams.
Simone combined her old pensions with Pension Bee. So I had multiple pensions from various jobs that I had been in, and every 6 months or so I would receive a statement, and I was losing track of all my different pensions and all the different statements. I just wanted one easy way of keeping them all in one place.
At Pension Bee, we believe that when your pension is in a good place, you're in a good place. Download the app or go to pensionbee.com and be pension confident. When investing, your capital is at risk.
Train to Cambridge and then all aboard the paddleboards. A little bit different, should be fun. Or wobbly, or wet.
The wetsuit's a good look on you, Steve.
Oh, actually, this is very relaxing.
George is up the river cam without a paddle.
Train home, that was such a laugh. I think I might even have a new hobby. Download the Thameslink Railway app to book tickets and save a third off group travel on off-peak journeys. Thameslink Railway, where every stop is a story.
Tom Swarbrick on LBC.
4:33 the time. Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. But I'm going to get to a call in a moment. Andy to you as well. First.
When someone is ill or someone steps up or someone does the right thing, then people expect them to get a thank you.
On the 206 bus in northwest London, drama. Bus driver Mark Hire chases down a thief who was on his bus and then nips the necklace of a passenger. Mark chases thief, catches thief, punches thief, returns necklace to passenger, and is then dismissed by his employer. We discussed this story, a mere small column in one of the papers at the time. When Mark Hire ran the show.
After about 200 metres up that ago, we had a bit of a scuffle. He actually was getting away, so he handed me back the necklace. I came back to the bus, handed the necklace to the guy, and someone said, he's coming behind you, so I turned around. And the girl is clearly on CCTV, putting her hand up. She's distressed, she's telling him to go away. I stood between them because she's nervous. And next thing the guy, as was clearly shown on CCTV, went to throw a left punch, and I never know why.
Since that call, things have changed. There have been senior politicians and others calling for him to get his job back. It's funding pages and, frankly, I would say overwhelming support from the majority of the nation. Today, we have reunited victim for joining me in the studio is bus driver Mark and Guido, whose necklace was not patting the bus. Actually, thanks so much for coming in. It's great to find you picking up bus. Mark, very good to see you. We've heard Mark's side of the tale of the tape, as it were. What was yours?
A lot of confusion. First, I thought I was getting on the bus and the guy was flying off the bus, and I thought he's going to push me off the bus. He didn't push me off the bus, but he left with my necklace.
And did you feel the necklace?
I didn't feel that. Funny thing is, the necklace clip opened up. It gave in. The necklace, it's in my neck right now.
There it is, yeah.
It never been broken, never been damaged. So yeah, it took me a little time to kind of realize what just happened. And then Mark was flying after the guy, and then all the passengers was coming up to me, checking on me if I was okay, if I was hurt or something. So I felt well cared for at that point. And then when Mark was coming back, I walked already on front of the bus, and he handed me the necklace, and the guy was almost right behind him, and he started to come at me, and I'm like, oh my god, what is this? What do you want? So I went into defense mode, walking backwards, shouting at him, and that's when he stepped in. Stopped the guy punched him, he punched the guy went down on the floor, and after that it's a blur for me. I was kind of there on the phone calling the ambulance.
So, Mark, I'll come to you in just a moment, but Kathleen, from your perspective, because the court was told a rather different story, or at least the employment tribunal was told a rather different story, that this man who'd stolen your necklace was returning to the bus in order to say sorry to you and apologise for what has happened. But you say you saw this man throw a punch and then Mark decked him.
The way the man was coming toward me, it was threatening. If someone wants to say sorry, you read their face, you read their body language, and you will stand there and you will allow them to apologize. There was no sign of that. He looked mad, and I did not know what was going on with him. His face was just whoa, no thank you, I do not want that. And I did
So were
not...
it not for Mark stepping in, what do you think would have happened?
I don't know. I didn't know if he had a weapon, if he had a knife, if he... what he wanted to do, but the way he was coming at me was threatening, purely threatening.
Mark? Yes, no, I should be calling you sir. How have things been for you the last few days since you landed?
Where do you start? Hectic is a good word. Tiring. Overwhelming support. Reaction from the public. It's been absolute worldwide at this stage. A message from Australia, New Zealand, America, and parts of Europe. I mean, I can make that. I'm looking for negatives in comments. My friends are looking for negatives in comments, but it just seems it's 99.5% in favour. And it's basically what I wanted was it to get out and for the public to kind of decide themselves what's the best kind of thing to do in that situation. And it seems like the best thing to do was exactly what I did. To put myself in the story, just to let people know that, this happens day in day. It happens in tubes and trains and buses and every day. And I'm not saying I was misquoted for saying that I would like to see people stand up and fight back. That's not what I meant. I don't want to be a vigilante state. And it doesn't become a lovely state. What will happen is, it might give people the idea that in certain circumstances where they can step in and stop a situation, stop a robbery, and do it.
Catherine, what do you make then of Mark having been sacked?
Oh, it's very disappointing because I was not expecting that. Because it was, my well-being was dependent on his actions. So, and I didn't understand why did he get punished for doing good.
Well, the argument heard in the Parliament Tribunal, which was Conto's decision to sack him, was that you abdicated your responsibility to the safety of passengers by presumably leaving the bus. But, I mean, Catherine, I didn't know that you'd be sitting here with your necklace had Mark not stood up for the safety of at least a passenger, which was you.
There was no passenger in danger whatsoever. All the passengers on the bus, it wasn't too many, any of them. All of them were contacting me, caring about me. They did not feel welcome. They were not in any danger at any point.
Have you had any contact with Metro License?
No. In the hearing, I might add, that they brought forward three main points, which is basically their case, built around their case. One was bringing the bus company into disrepute. Now, I objected to that because the reasoning for that was that there could have been people there with mobile phones, like people do every day, recording it. Metroline name is there, it's going to bring the company into disrepute. That was one. That didn't happen. They didn't make many social media platforms at the time. So that was the problem. The second one was, I felt as well that I stepped off the bus, I left the bus open, I chased after a guy, not thinking about the passengers that were on the bus. On CCTV, they brought the full footage in. It clearly shows when I left the cab that I closed the door behind me, which makes the bus inaccessible.
So no one's you're not going to sort of step in and drive the bus off or something?
You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
You need a special T-bar key even to open that door.
So how on earth did this decision get arrived at in this fashion?
I have absolutely, honestly, no idea how they came to this conclusion. Now, I spoke to MPs, we were in the House of Commons yesterday, and I spoke
Have
to
you been there before?
No, never. No.
How was that?
No, that was incredible. That was incredible. Fun but long.
Yeah.
You know, I got to see the Speaker, speak to the Speaker in his chambers afterwards, and I spoke to the leader of the Conservatives, Cammy. She was really, really nice. Very nice. Who's not prepared, I think, to make any statement on the issue. Considering that his dad actually was a bus driver for over 20 years in London, a hard-working man from what I believe, father of 8 kids, and I would have thought that he would have understood, his father's side of it. That there are circumstances where you have to step in the booth.
Do you want a word of encouragement, apology from Sadiq Khan? Do you think that would be necessary, given that you were driving a bus in London?
What I'd like to do is I'd like Sadiq Khan to approach Metroline. I mean, he's head of TfL. I would like him to email Metroline and just ask them from their perspective, they may have got it wrong. You know, and just accept some sort of culpability as regards, okay, we're not 100% wrong, but maybe we might have got the decision wrong, and they're not prepared to do that.
A Metroline spokesperson, I have to tell you, says the tribunal has upheld the dismissal as fair, which is, I guess, a statement of fact that Catherine will shake your head at.
Yeah, because at the tribunal, they basically made the CCTV footage and they kind of did not read my body language properly, because this is kind of stay away, I'm scared of you.
You're not putting your hand back to show you.
I wasn't going before stealing my necklace. I was going do not come near me, and I was backing away, and they interpreted that he was coming to say so.
And it seems to be that the procedure that has dictated this dismissal is one that would mean that Mark would have had to stay in the cab, not do anything, just head down, ignore the problem, carry on driving. Is that a procedure that you think keeps you safe?
That would not make me feel safe. That would stress me even more what happened, because then I would have to be and the shock, and emotions were running high regardless.
And a lot of people, don't feel that London is safe, and that transport in London is safe. I wonder if that's something that you feel particularly given what happened, or whether it's people like Mark to make it safe.
Before that happened, I wasn't really scared on the bus or so. I was always careful when I took my phone out of my pocket or my bag, so try to keep it away from large crowds and so on. So I like to be safe than sorry, but never had any issues on the bus. So
that hasn't put you off, which is good to see.
It's a different story, because now it happened to me.
Yeah,
before it happened to someone else.
So, I have to say, when we first got the story, Mark, and you know, it's an amazing thing of not quite knowing who's listening. Amazing that you were, and amazing that you rang in. And the support that we have had on the show for you from my listeners has been absolutely overwhelming. I cannot tell you about it. You know, even when this tribunal reached that decision, very, very few people were thinking that was morally the right time to arrive. And I just read you this from leading forward. Mark is a true hero. I believe there may be a privilege going spare this week. If anyone deserves it, Mark does. How do you fancy the rules?
No, I was asked by a few MPs yesterday to say you seem to be a very diplomatic type of person with a position around here. Can I just say one thing? I think it's important that people understand. There's some sort of relationship going on, and I've got to tell you something. I spent 6 days in the hospital because I received a very bad bacterial infection from the nose too hard at the time. So I was in ICU for 6 days. I had 2 operations on my hand.
My God.
And according to the surgeon, and I quote the surgeon, I was within 3 days of losing my hand because of this infection.
From punching the
yes, I got an infection from his tooth. Yeah. So at that stage, I knew it got serious. Now that's kind of what Metroline, I think, have said. Now I can't quote them, but this is what I'm hearing and reading. That Metroline have said they sent a with the union representative to the hospital. I'm going to say this now, that is utter rubbish. It never happened. No one from HR rang the hospital, no one approached the hospital, no union rep with anyone from Metroline approached the hospital at any stage. And I was still an employee with them at that time.
Sorry, so you were in hospital in ICU?
Yes, for 6 days.
They say we sent someone to see you, that you say never happened.
Absolutely never
And then
happened.
after this period where you are genuinely very, very ill,
Yes.
they sacked you.
I got out of the hospital, I had my arm was in a sling because I had 2 major operations on my hand. My arm was in a sling, I couldn't walk for, it was nearly 3 months I had the sling on for. And I went in 2 days, I think it was a week after I came out of hospital, into the final decision in the office in Metroline. They said, we're sacking you without 15th July.
Man, you've been through the ring.
Absolutely, it's been 19 months of hell. All my savings, my funds, my wage, I had no wages, my pension is gone. This was something that I enjoyed doing. I had a plan. Up to 68 or 70, I'll do this. I can retire happy, I've done my job. That's gone. They've taken everything away.
Well, you've given us more to do. I mean, I think we need to get in touch, team, with Steve Khan's office, and I think we need to get in touch now with Metroline as well about that suggestion that they said. I mean, the behaviour of
I brought this up in the tribunal.
It's really nice to meet you both. Thank you so much for coming in. That is Mark here, hero, brackets former bus driver for now, we'll see. And Kathleen Koshas, who was the passenger who had her necklace stolen, who Mark protected so valiantly on that bus in Northwest London. Thank you both so much for coming in. We're actually coming out to that time. You're listening to Tom Swarbrick on LBC. Coming up after 5.
Parents in tears and students concerned for their safety after a student was killed in Leicester last night. I'm LBC's George Ike with the full story.
We'll bring you the details in a moment. 4:49 the time.
LBC travel line, Dave Goff. There are long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise. One lane is closed before junction 23 for the A1M because of an accident. On the A40, there were queues going out of town. There's a lane closed because of an accident at the Downham roundabout for the M40. In Charles Hill, Platts Lane is closed in both directions between Hermitage Lane and Hollycroft Avenue. That's because of queues. On the trains, after a number of problems earlier, Thameslink have no service between Cambridge and Brighton, a major disruption on the rest of their network. Sevens have no service between Epsom and London Bridge. There's also reduced service between London Bridge and Norwood Junction and Victoria and Victoria. And the London Overground has no service on the Ring Bridge between Sydenham and West Croydon.
Switch the family's unlimited plans to Vodafone. You say, so has learned to voice note. Can you hear me? You say, well, your daughter sets a new high school in her favourite. You say, well, your son's video calling his crush for 3 hours. I love you. Say hello and switch your family's plans to Vodafone. Vodafone together. Eligible plans from the 30th of October. Ready check, terms apply.
Call Tom Swarbrick 0345 6060 973 LBC.
To be or not to be.
Right now we're offering a range of incentives across Audi models.
That is the...
But only until the 28th of February. So stop whatever you're doing.
I'll be right back. Carry on without me.
And find yours online or at your local Audi centre. Audi. Vorsprung der Technik. Terms and conditions apply. Selected models, retail customers and participating Audi centres only.
New ways to invest.
Okay.
Foolproof, guaranteed returns. Invest today.
All right, I think I will.
Way before you seal the deal, check if it's real and if a company is authorized by the FCA.
Oh, thanks.
Search FCA Firm Checker.
Mummy, please can you tell me a bedtime story?
Well, once upon a time there was a very tired mummy who'd been busy all day, and basically she was too knackered to cook, so she ordered herself sweet and sour chicken, special fried rice and some prawn crackers on Uber Eats instead.
That's not a very good story, Mummy.
Great ending though.
When you've done enough, Uber Eats and get your favourite restaurants delivered. Check out for terms and restrictions.
You want £1 million.
I'd love £1 million.
So you enter the birthday draw and you think of a way to spend £1 million.
I'd buy a really nice suit.
It's a lucky day and you win the birthday draw. I'm rich! But instead of a suit, you buy a jetpack. And ruin your sister's wedding. Is it your lucky day? For your chance to win £1 million, just search the birthday draw and enter now. From Global and ITV. 18 plus UK only. No purchase necessary.
With over 50 years' experience, at Fidelity, we believe there's a difference between investing and being invested. Investing is having access to guidance, tools, and expert insights. Being invested means feeling confident about your future. Investing is choosing from a wealth of investment options. Being invested means focusing on your long-term goals. For ISAs, pensions, or advice, be truly invested with Fidelity. Go to fidelity.co.uk. Your capital is at risk. Terms apply.
Tom Swarbrick. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
4:53 the time. Here's Peter on WhatsApp. I reckon what you're taking out of Dr. Drummond's case. He needs to be reinstated and get his pension minimum. Absolutely disgusting. He was trying to do the right thing and putting himself at personal risk for one of his customers. 10 years ago, he would have got the reward from the company. And compare, I don't want to draw too directly, but compare the genuine heroism of that individual and what happened to him versus a man who had an ongoing relationship with a paedophile billionaire who's then promoted to be our most senior diplomat in Washington. Tells you two different stories of two different worlds of work, isn't it? Easy to encounter on that, right, Bradley?
Allow me to ask you.
Tom, I'm just like really mad, like, because every day I hear about this. The Queen would have known that Andrew done it, right? Because why was she given...
Slow down. Prince Andrew Mountbatten has always denied any wrongdoing.
Right, okay. So why then, why was she given 12 million to pay her off, right? And she would have had to run that past Prince Charles at the time as well. Surely they would have spent 3 million of that and used it for their QCs at the time and fought it in court and won it if he was innocent, surely.
Well, settling a case, a civil case out of court does not inherently mean guilt. It has to be proven in a court. But Bradley, listen, I think I share... I think what the suggestion that perhaps him being Her Late Majesty the Queen's favourite son didn't help Her Majesty the Queen in managing this particularly well.
Yeah, okay. So why did when King Charles then stripped him of all his titles, why didn't they just kick him out of the ground and say, right, you've got to find your own place to live now?
Oh, because they have a responsibility to looking after him or something, I don't know. Bradley, I share your fury actually, and the more you go through these files, these emails, the more that seems to be revealed. You mentioned about the stripper. Bradley, thank you for the call. 0345 6060973 is the number. Andy to you in a moment. 5 to 5 the time. Next.
All I saw last night was blue lights flashing through the university itself. It was quite shocking, surprising.
An 18-year-old has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a university student was stabbed in Leicester city centre. George Ike is LBC's reporter in the city with the details. George.
Tom, we heard in that clip there just how nervous some students were after it's emerged that a student was allegedly murdered on the De Montfort University campus last night. It was just after 5 o'clock when police were called to Oxford Street in Leicester to report of a man who'd collapsed. And while the then received additional reports that a man in his 20s had actually allegedly been stabbed. One man aged 18 is in custody at the moment on suspicion of murder as part of this investigation. Leicestershire police said they believe there'd been an altercation with another man in the street just beforehand. The victim was then taken a very short distance to the Leicester Royal Infirmary but died a short time later. A huge cordon was set up across a large part of the city centre this morning, with numerous roads closed and staff at that hospital having their NHS ID checked to be taken across the cordon so they could get to work, with patients not being allowed in for the best part of the morning. The university have released a statement. They say they're devastated at the news one of their students has died, and that students and lecturers will be supported through the coming days and weeks, particularly those who witnessed it.
Terrible story in Leicester, George. Thank you very much indeed. George Ike, LBC's reporter in that city. Andy's in Tiverton before the news at 5. Hi, Andy.
Hello, Tom. First time caller, long-time listener. Thank you. I think there's a much bigger picture here.
just to go to Andrew for a second, I think that Jeffrey Epstein was being, and I thought this for weeks, was being paid by the Russians. Nobody could really account for how he got all of his funding. So let's assume he's being paid by the Russians. He had an unlimited supply of Russian girls. Then when Trump gets in, the Russians have the hand over him, and that's why he's not paying for Vladimir Putin. It's far more serious than the Andrew stuff. Epstein was in at every level. So the Russians knew about our parliament details, they knew about the royals, and they know about America. And that's why Trump is giving way to Putin.
I would say two things on this. I would say two things on this. The first is you're going to want to stay tuned because I've got a former head of the Russia desk at MI6 coming on the programme in the next few moments about Jeffrey Epstein. And the second is I went down a very large wormhole last night, stayed up far too late, looking at the documents themselves of the Epstein files. And from what one can make out, Epstein was in touch with a lot of seemingly quite young Russian girls who were talking about, literally in the emails, talking about having to leave London to go back to Moscow to get dental care because it's too expensive, all the dresses he bought them, all the clothes he bought them, the flights he paid for, that kind of thing. A lot of Russia. They were speaking to him in sort of in Russian accented ways.
Fine, but why is Trump taking far too long to release the documents? Because he's getting his goons to redact any of the details that concern him.
There's still more to come on that, isn't there? Andy, thank you. Marita's in Lambeth. Marita?
Hey, Tom. How's it going? Good. Well, I'm befuddled. You know, we've had days of the Mandelson story. We've had, ongoing saga of Andrew. We now have Sadiq Khan, who refuses to even talk to the bus company or talk to Mark, the driver. And Mark is like the hero. And he's lost his pension. I couldn't believe it when he said it. He's lost his pension. He's lost everything. You know, we're living in a society where the rich and powerful are continually protected. And ordinary people, doing great things who are it's just disgusting. There's no other word for it. It's just absolutely gross. People are fed up with it. People are just absolutely fed up with it.
I can't argue with you. I mean, I think what's happened to Mark in particular is absolutely grotesque. And were it not, I have to say, were it not for him picking up the phone and ringing into this programme a week ago, they would have hoped he'd gone away quietly and that would be the end of it.
I know, but you can bet your bottom dollar that there's, a mark every week. There's a story that's happening every week that we just don't know about.
Rita, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much indeed. You're listening to Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. In the next 60 minutes...
It was a struggle to get him into school. A serious struggle.
1 in 6 autistic pupils haven't been to school since September. We'll look at why that's happened.
Gold rush above $5,500 an ounce.
It's back. Gold prices have rebounded again after the US downed an Iranian drone. You'll get a business update. Plus,
did the official security vetting mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
Yes, it did.
The Prime Minister says he was told of an ongoing relationship between Epstein and Mandelson when he appointed the peer to be our ambassador in the US, but then says Mandelson lied about the extent of the relationship. As the polls investigate whether Epstein was a Russian agent, we speak to the former head of MI6's Russia desk.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 5 o'clock, the government has been forced to climb down over the release of documents relating to the appointment of Peter Mandelson. Sir Keir Starmer faced a rebellion by Labour MPs by refusing to reveal some files relating to national security. The Prime Minister has now agreed to pass them on to Parliament's Intelligence Committee. Sir Keir told the Commons earlier that he is as angry as MPs and the public following allegations Mandelson linked sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein.
Mandelson betrayed our country, our parliament, and my party. Mr. Speaker, he lied repeatedly to my team when asked about his relationship with Epstein. before and during his tenure as ambassador. I regret appointing him. If I knew then what I know now, he would never have been anywhere near government.
Peter Mandelson has previously denied any wrongdoing. The Health Secretary has told LBC Andrew Mountbatten Windsor should give evidence to Congress on Jeffrey Epstein. He's understood to have moved from his mansion in Windsor to the Sandringham estate. Andrew's relocation was announced in October following pressure over his ties to the late sex offender. LBC's Henry Riley is in Sandringham.
Moving 125 miles north of his former Windsor mansion, Royal Lodge, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor moved to Sandringham in the middle of the night, it's understood, at the start of the week. Temporarily living at a property on the King's Estate, he'll soon move next door to the tiny village of Wolverton. A much smaller red brick cottage awaits him, believed to be called Marsh Farm. It's understood it won't be ready for a couple of months, as it's still undergoing renovations. Henry Riley, LBC, Sandringham.
The man has admitted drugging his wife so she would not wake up while he sexually assaulted children at a summer camp in Leicestershire. 76-year-old John Rubin previously admitted drugging the two boys he abused and charged guilty towards 6 other children. They'll be sentenced on Friday. The Trump administration is reducing the number of immigration enforcement officers in Minnesota after agreeing a deal. About 700 of the roughly 3,000 ICE agents will be withdrawn. State and local officials have agreed to cooperate by turning over arrested immigrants. And snooker legend John Virgo has died at the age of 79. He won 4 professional titles in the 1970s and 80s before going on to commentate on the sport. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed up 87 points at 10,402. The pound buys $1.36 and €1.15. LBC weather, spells of rain lingering in the north tonight. These will also move into southern areas. Freezing. Rain pushing northwards across the UK tomorrow. Cool and heavy at times. Drier for far west Scotland. Highs of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Tom Swarbrick.
Very good afternoon to you. 4 minutes past 5 the time. Tom Swarbrick here on LBC this Wednesday afternoon. This hour,
did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Yes, it did. That answer is a big, big problem for Keir Starmer. The key word in the question, obviously the word ongoing. The Prime Minister now says he did know before he appointed Mandelson that Mandelson had a relationship with a convicted paedophile that was ongoing. The depth of that relationship, the extent of that relationship, Starmer says Mandelson lied about, but the Prime Minister appointed a man to one of the most senior roles in the British diplomatic hierarchy, a man that he knew had been in an ongoing relationship with a paedophile financier. Starmer is right to be angry at not apparently having known the full extent of that relationship. But why on earth would the Prime Minister choose to appoint this man knowing what he knew at the time? I find that really quite astounding, and I think this afternoon there is a genuine fury in parts of the Labour Party that Keir Starmer, to an extent that wasn't known before, brought this on himself, brought this on the government, brought it on the Labour Party. Natasha Clark is LBC's political editor. Febrile.
Yeah, Tom, I've just been in Parliament watching, listening to the Commons, talking to MPs. I wouldn't even say febrile. It's dire. It's depressed. It's accepting that the end might be near for Keir Starmer. And the mood is just so depressed. As Aggie was reporting with you earlier, the Tories have now done this deal with Labour, which takes the sting out of this day a little bit.
They're not going to lose the vote now.
Well, the vote's basically going to get nodded through. The Tories will basically support the Labour government because now they've tweaked it. So the Tories claiming victory on that. They've basically forced the government to agree to release these documents. We don't exactly know when they're going to come. We were hearing earlier today potentially some. It's been an extraordinary day in Parliament, and I think just listening to some of those Labour MPs, those backbench Labour MPs, absolutely letting rip that, you could hear the anger in their voices. The Tories, like I say, claiming credit and saying that it's all about the Prime Minister knowing that relationship had continued. We also heard from the SNP. Stephen Flynn said earlier today it was about the Prime Minister's promise to do better than the Conservatives.
The reality is that this Prime Minister has not only let himself down, he has let his office down, and he has let the public down. A public who he promised change to. He said that he would tread lightly on their lives. Do any of them believe that today?
But it was earlier today where Streeting told our colleague Sheila Fogarty that it is the extent of that relationship that was vital.
I don't think people really knew the extent of that friendship. And
does the extent matter?
Well, in the sense that, you know, we don't just do guilt by association, and you don't just write people off because they've had the misfortune of knowing someone who has...
Close friendship. Well, knowing someone.
But I wouldn't... At the same time, though, Sheila, you know, I've seen Peter Mandelson popping up in the media over the years. And, you know, I don't think the full extent of that relationship and that association was that.
And Tom, interestingly, hearing from Angela Rayner, who basically has forced the government into agreeing that anything that is sensitive national security will be now seen on an independent committee of MPs, essentially getting up in the House of Commons and saying, I disagree with the Prime Minister on this one, this is what I need to do. It could be seen as effectively firing the starting gun on her own leadership.
Well, she's in charge. She has... The backbenches of the Labour Party are in charge here. The government have messed up their own amendment to this Tory Day.
Yeah,
because they've had to change it.
Yeah, you can just feel the power being sucked away from this government. It's that fury which is most vivid today. The mood is bleak. Ministers, MPs now texting me, is this it? This is the end? Is this going to be how Keir Starmer goes? And the crucial argument can't be made, we're as bad, this is, you know, not as bad as the Conservatives, or, you know, that somebody else made the decision. This is Keir Starmer, his judgment, this is his bed, he's going to have to lie in it.
Natasha Clark is LBC's political editor. As well as all the questions about what Keir Starmer knew and did not know, I wanted to play you this. Have a listen to this question and answer from Sir Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Polish government think Epstein may have been spying for Vladimir Putin. Is the Prime Minister concerned that Peter Mandelson may have been leaking state secrets, not just to a paedophile American financier, but also a Russian agent?
Well, Mr. Secretary talks of a public inquiry. Obviously, the focus now has to be on the criminal investigation which has started. As he knows, that investigation will go wherever the evidence leads it. And I've made it absolutely clear that the government will cooperate, as you would expect, with that criminal investigation, wherever it goes.
Prime Minister not engaging with Sir Ed Davies' question. Christopher Steele is the former head of the MI6 Russia desk and director of Orbis Business Intelligence. Thank you for coming on your programme, on my programme, Mr. Steele. Did the name Epstein ever cross your desk?
Depends whether you mean my desk in government or my desk in private business since 2009.
Let's go with government first.
That's the one I can't talk about. But certainly in private business it did, and it was linked very strongly with Russia.
In what way?
In the sense that the whole Epstein files, as they're coming out, are showing the extensive connections between Epstein and Russia. And I would argue this goes right back to the 1970s. My sources in America tell me that the American government, the American intelligence services assessment was that Epstein was recruited as early as the 1970s by Russian organised crime figures in New York, and that his information was being used, his operational techniques were being used from that point onwards. So this scandal, this case, if you like, goes back decades.
So your information is that Epstein was indeed recruited to act on behalf of Russian mobsters or the Russian state?
Well, of course, the two are interlinked. Initially in New York, obviously, offshore, it's Russian mobsters, but Russian mobsters were always umbilically linked to the Russian intelligence services. And that relationship actually has got a lot closer over time. One of the things Putin did when he came to office was effectively took over the FSB, the security service in Russia, took over organised crime as part of Putin's consolidation of state power in his hands. So this is one side or two sides of the same coin, basically.
Was this endeavour by Epstein and to an extent Maxwell done in order to gain compromat on senior figures within the British hierarchy, whether that's a senior government minister in Mandelson or a prince?
I believe this started, for what you're referring to, the Maxwell-Epstein relationship. I'm not sure I would refer to Robert Maxwell as the key figure here in the past, not Delane. I think Delane met Epstein through Robert Maxwell. But I think Epstein was in business with Robert Maxwell in the late 1980s. And what they were doing at the time ostensibly was Maxwell was getting Jewish people, Soviet Jews, out of Russia into Israel. My sources tell me both in America and in Canada that the other side of that, quid pro quo, was that they were laundering Soviet Communist Party hard currency into the West, and that Epstein was clearly recruited as part of that operation.
That's where Epstein, you say, got the money from to pay the flights, accommodation, transportation of Russian, potentially Russian young women.
Yes, what is quite curious is that my American contacts tell me that despite the fact that Epstein was incredibly rich and influential, omnipresent, if you like, in American high society, because he didn't actually do many big banking or financial deals. So the implication of that is that the money was coming from somewhere else, and I believe it was coming from the Soviet Union initially and then Russia.
Do you suspect, to what extent do you know, that included within Epstein's files, including on his computer somewhere, is severely damaging, incredibly embarrassing behaviour by the current President of the United States?
I think it's quite likely, although I suspect that some of these files have been destroyed. One of the interesting aspects of this is that if the American security services knew that this was initially a Russian operation, it was a continuing Russian operation over the years, why did they let it run so long? I find that mysterious. I think other intelligence services were also involved, Israelis almost certainly.
In what way?
Well, in the sense that, if you like, the modus operandi, the value of the compromat that was being gathered must have been so great that it was attractive to more than just the Russian intelligence services.
The Polish government say that they are investigating any links between Epstein and the Russian intelligence services. Prime Minister Tusk saying more and more leads, more and more information, and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented paedophilia scandal was co-organised by Russian intelligence services. Do you think the British government needs to do that, or, if we're honest, Christopher, have already done that investigation?
Well, I left government in 2009, so I can't say for sure. I think the Polish position has to be taken very seriously. Poland is a very good, if you like, assessor of Russia's intentions and Russia's operations. And if the Polish government and the Polish intelligence services think that the Russians were behind this, then I think we need to investigate that as well here, because they are good allies and they are reliable allies and they understand Russia as well as anybody.
Why, in theory, would an intelligence service allow this, let's say it is Russian-backed compromat creating web, to continue?
Well, obviously the Russians would want it to continue because they were gaining value from it.
Yes, but why would the British security services or the Americans?
The American security services baffle me because, as I say, the other thing that baffles me is the fact that clearly the Department of Justice in America had this material at its disposal for the last several years on Epstein. They don't seem to have shared that with British security services when the Mandelson appointment came up. And given that Mandelson was actually going to be ambassador to the US and would, in that role, also have access to sensitive US information, I find it baffling that that wasn't the case.
Do you think... to what extent do you think it is true that the Prime Minister would not have known about the extent of the relationship between Mandelson and Epstein?
I wouldn't like to comment on that. I can't because I haven't been in the system. I think that clearly it was known that Mandelson had a relationship with Epstein for many years, and in my view that should have been enough to prevent him getting that particular job, which is a highly sensitive ambassador.
And yet here is a potential Russian asset being invited to tea parties in Buckingham Palace by a senior member of the royal family.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, isn't it? I find it absolutely baffling that that wasn't also clamped down upon at the time, but I don't really comment further.
Appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. Christopher Steele is former head of the MI6 Russia desk, director of Orbis Business Intelligence. Much more to come over the next 45 minutes or so about the ramifications of the debate in Parliament, and come to your thoughts on the domestic political situation now for Keir Starmer. I mean, may was a challenge. May was going to be the challenge election for Keir Starmer because of all the local elections. With all this swirling around now, with a by-election in February, late February, does he get to the end of the month? Genuinely. 03456060973. Tom Swarbrick here, 517. Headlines, Amelia Cox.
Sir Keir Starmer says Peter Mandelson betrayed our country and he regrets appointing him as US ambassador. The Health Secretary has told LBC Jeffrey Epstein's links to Russia should be investigated following allegations Mandelson was leaking information to him. And the Princess of Wales has issued a new personal video message to mark World Cancer Day in which she says she has moments of fear and exhaustion. LBC weather, spells of rain lingering in the north tonight. These will also move into southern areas, a low of freezing.
LBC traffic line, Dave. Got off the long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise. One lane is closed before junction 23 for the A1M because of an accident. There are also long delays on the M25 clockwise from junction 23 for the A1M round to junction 25 for Enfield after the van breakdown earlier. In Childs Hill, Platts Lane is partly blocked in both directions between Hermitage Lane and Hollycroft Avenue. That's because of a fire in a house, so there are queues. On the trains, after a number of problems this morning, Thameslink have no service between Cambridge and Brighton, a major disruption across the rest of their network. Southern also have no service between Epsom and London Bridge. And there's also a reduced Southern service between London Bridge and Norwood Junction and between West Croydon and Victoria. And on London Overground, there's no Windrush line between Sydenham and West Croydon.
This is LBC.
Imagine a place where you can escape for a day. Get immersed in a world of rules, inspiration, and expertise, where you can live in luxury accommodation. And kids can feast for 95 pence. Tickets are free to everyone and include all of the attractions. You just imagine a day out at IKEA. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
This is LBC. Listen on our free global player app or the LBC app. Download it now from your app store.
Done like that. Oh, new ways to invest. Okay. Foolproof guaranteed returns. Invest today. All right, I can cope with it.
Way before you seal the deal, check if it's real and if a company is authorized by the FCA. Oh, thanks. Search FCA Firm Checker. That quiet moment behind the wheel. The perfect space to get your thoughts in order. With the stylish HR-V Hybrid, you get the head-turning design you want with the space and flexibility you actually need. Because every journey matters. Explore the full Honda range online at honda.co.uk. Honda, the power of dreams.
Hey dogs, yeah, I'm talking to you. If you're tired of dry, tasteless kibble or slop that plops out of the tin, you're going to want to hear this. Butternut Box makes only the freshest dog food with juicy meat and tender veg. It's the kind of food that makes dogs, tongue out, run around the kitchen happy. Let's hope your human heard this too. Butternut Box, fresh food, happy dogs. Try Butternut Box today. Get 25% off your first 2 boxes. Offer available online in the UK and Ireland to first-time customers only.
Oh, hello, love. Good day.
Right, thanks for joining this all-staff meeting.
It's just you and me.
So, I think that we need to revisit tonight's dinner plans. Busy day, a lot of KPIs, But I need you to order some spaghetti, tomatoes, a bottle of white, and 2 sticky toffee puddings. Let's circle back after you've ordered an Uber Eats.
Sure. When you've office dinner, Uber Eats, and get all your groceries delivered. Check out for terms and restrictions.
Tom Swarbrick, text 84850. This is LBC.
5:21 is the time. Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. There's being revealed from these Epstein files. We're getting it all belted but I'm going to bring you some breaking news in relation to that in just a few moments. Stand by. Chris is in Stoke-on-Trent. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Tom. Just talking about security. Mr. Johnson was in Downing Street. And he flew straight off to the Security Council meeting, and without his entourage of security people, went over to this party. Then he came back, and nothing was said. And then he put that guy in the House of Lords who was a case of his son.
Yes, and this is when Boris Johnson, he wasn't Prime Minister, from my recollections, he was Foreign Secretary at the time, went over to a party, I think in Italy, and was photographed in the airport coming back looking like he'd been on a big walk, should we put it like that?
Yeah. So don't you think that really demands an investigation? He was all put to one side. And it's just something else I'd like to say as well about the Reform Party were very quiet in Parliament today, and the question times when everything was going off, nothing was said, so they were keeping their heads down. But don't forget now about Johnson with the connection with his oven-ready Yeah.
Well, to be slightly fair, the MPs who stand up are pre-selected before PMQs happen, so it may well be that a Reform MP, because there aren't that many of them, did not go to question today. I saw Suella Braverman, now a Reform MP, speak in the House of Commons a little earlier during this debate. But Chris, on the Prime Minister,
yes,
I think this is hastening his end, if I'm honest. This isn't going to be it in and of itself, but this brings closer the time when Keir Starmer is not Prime Minister.
Yeah, unfortunately. As a Labour man myself, always been all my life, but this time he's gone a little bit too far. He was great with French, with the EU, which we need, because we're on our own at the moment. He was a great ambassador for that, but as for now, he's in a really, really tricky situation.
I mean, that's an understatement.
Hi, good afternoon, Tom. Thank you for putting me on. An understate. I completely agree with you. It's an absolute disaster for Starmer. But if he tries to gaslight and blame the security services for not saying enough about it, then MI6 and MI5 are going to get compromised. Basically. If Morgan McSweeney was Mandelson's protege and got meteoric rise up to Labour and the Party, organised the campaign, Mandelson did it out from the very beginning. Was he given the ambassador to the States job as his reward for getting Starmer up?
If it is true that what the New Statesman has reported this afternoon, then I don't think a Prime Minister would need to know much more than they currently knew about the relationship between Mandelson and Epstein in order to make a decision that obviously it would be wrong to appoint Mandelson as ambassador. The New Statesman reports that the document on Mandelson brought to the Prime Minister's attention before he'd appointed him contained the relationship with the paedophile after his conviction for soliciting a minor for prostitution. It contained links to photographs of Mandelson with the paedophile, drew particular attention to evidence that Mandelson had stayed at Epstein's apartment while Epstein was in prison. The New Statesman said that was sent directly to the Prime Minister. I think it says something about the Prime Minister's judgment that he would appoint a man on the evidence of that.
It's incomprehensible. It's absolutely incomprehensible. So what was the arrangement? Why did Mandelson get appointed when he was so clearly unsuitable?
Can I give you a thought?
Government twice before.
Yeah, can I give you the answer? Or what might be the answer, which they cannot give the government? The answer might be that it was precisely because of Mandelson's close relationship with Epstein that Mandelson was appointed as US ambassador to the Trump administration, because guess who also had close links with Epstein? Donald Trump.
I don't buy that. And Trump was the first politician who's been away from Epstein a long time ago. Completely distant himself. Basically, it's more like Mandelson was organising Starmer's rise up after Corbyn got sort of canned for his anti-Semitism. It was a disastrous thing. Starmer had a rapid rise up there. So the main thing is, if you get and blame the security service, and Starmer throws everybody else above, to save them. Because it's going to cause damage.
Listen, Michael, it's never one thing that brings down violence. One thing that brings down violence is the action of the and some forecasts, some forecasts like this. But go into that direction with all this. I think this is last throw of the dice. authority of running the country in a way that is going to tread lightly on your lives, but how you're on the side of good, honest people. How's he going to do that? Michael, thank you for your call. Just before I get you to a business update, I want to bring you this. Do you remember the photo, reportedly, of then Prince Andrew with his arm around a woman called Virginia Giuffre with Ghislaine Maxwell in the background looking on? It's a photo that Andrew himself has said or called into question about its veracity. Have a listen to what the then Prince Andrew told Emily Maitlis in 2019 when he was asked about that infamous photo.
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
And you don't recollect having your hand round her waist in Ghislaine Maxwell's house on any occasion, even if it was a different occasion?
As a member of the royal family, and I have a photograph taken, and I've taken very, very few photographs. I am not one to, as it were, hug and public displays of affection are not something that I do.
Well, it seems like that was a lie, because from the Epstein documents, we see an email seemingly from Ghislaine Maxwell, which appears to confirm that the now infamous photograph of Andrew Windsor with his arm around his accuser Virginia Giuffre was real. In a message headed Draft Statement sent by a G. Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein in 2015 at a time of mounting claims in the press, she wrote, "In 2001 I was in London when, redacted, met a number of friends of mine including Prince Andrew. A photograph was taken as I imagine she wanted to show it to friends and family. Prince Andrew and, redacted, were at my house, but I am not saw anything improper that took place at my home." The subsequent statement, which emerged in the latest release of Epstein Files, was first reported by the Mail, appears to contradict the former prince's assertion that he never met Giuffre and his long-standing suggestion that the image of him with his arm around her may have been doctored. I mean, it just keeps going, doesn't it? It just keeps going. I don't know when this is going to end. There's 3 million pages of this stuff. 03456060973. Let's get a business update. Chris Justin is here from 7 Investment Management. Good news on gold, Chris, if you were holding?
Yeah, back above $5,000, briefly announced today, Tom, but it's so volatile, it's already pulled back slightly. But this is just after a few days, as we know, of falls. We talked about it quite extensively on Friday, pretty rich trading yesterday. But what's happened effectively that's made people flock to it again over the course of the past 24 hours or so is nerves, and I would say that the US shooting down an Iranian drone is firmly in the nerves column. So after a few days, as I mentioned, of things being a little bit up and down, that's been pretty supportive today. It's about flat at the moment, but if I'm honest, literally about 3 or 4 minutes ago when I looked at the price, it was down on the day by 0.3%. Then about a minute ago, it was up by 0.4%, and now it's flat. So look, you can't take your eyes off this stuff. It's very, very volatile indeed. But the other thing I just mentioned is that normally, sweeping generalisation, when you end up seeing people flock to gold, it comes at the price of equities. But equity performance for stock markets are really diverging at the moment. So the FTSE 100 today, despite the fact that gold has some support, is up by 0.9%. So that is driven by a few companies coming out with good earnings reports, a bit of M&A activity. But for example, GlaxoSmithKline, the drug maker, up 7.5% because it's having a revenue beat. European mainland mixed. But if we look over at the US, that's down nearly 1% today. And that's a mixture of valuations being stretched, AI making people worry about the fact that some of the software businesses could be automated out of existence pretty fast indeed, with all of these, the likes of Claude, for example, spinning up the opportunity to build things that were taken months and many hundreds of thousands and millions of pounds worth of revenue. But things we like to see, Tom, the FTSE 100, Union Jack, that it is 4.7% up year to date. S&P 500 up a paltry 0.3%. It's rare that we get to say these things, but it's really, really diverging. It's very interesting stuff.
Chris, appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Chris Justin from 7 Investment Management. You're listening to Tom Swarbrick on LBC. Coming up.
If a child is struggling to attend due to anxiety, overwhelm, sensory overload, the school has a legal duty to identify and support the underlying need.
1 in 6 autistic pupils haven't been to school at all since September. Has that been happening in your family? Why is that happening? 5:32, news headlines for Media Cox.
The Prime Minister says he regrets appointing Peter Mandelson as US Ambassador. Sir Keir Starmer has had to agree to release all documents on the decision to the Intelligence Select Committee in a climb down. A man has admitted drugging his wife so she would not wake up while he sexually assaulted children at a summer camp. 76-year-old John Reuben previously admitted abusing 2 boys in Leicestershire last year and child cruelty towards 6 other victims. And the Princess of Wales has issued a new personal video message to mark World Cancer Day. Kate describes how her own journey has moments of fear and exhaustion, but also moments of strength, kindness and profound connection. LBC weather, spells of rain lingering in the north tonight. These will also move into southern areas, a low of freezing.
LBC this morning on Nick Ferrari at breakfast. What are we to make of Sir Keir Starmer's supposedly forensic barrister-like skills, former Director of Public Prosecutions, and that he placed so much trust in Peter Mandelson to become our ambassador without, apparently, an interview and without the usual vetting? Health and Social Care Secretary Wes Streeting, who joins me now.
What we've seen is evidence of a shocking betrayal of 2 Prime Ministers of our country and our national interest.
Could this bring the government down?
I think that would be to let Peter Mandelson off the hook. This is his misjudgment, his misconduct, his irresponsibility.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Back tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
People ask me, what's my good place? Wild swimming with the girls on a chilly spring morning. And knowing that with Pension Bee, I can choose to invest in line with my values, which is why I pitched their climate plan.
At Pension Bee, we believe that when your pension is in a good place, you're in a good place. Download the app or go to pensionbee.com and be pension confident when investing your capital is at risk.
Thanks for the key deliveries, David. Who do you like to... That's brilliant. So, okay, sales targets. Are we hitting the dance floor?
There's more than one you, and with Specsavers 2 for 1, you can choose glasses for at least 2 use. From £70 with standard single vision lenses. Book an appointment at specsavers.co.uk. Conditions apply. Attention dogs, this is not a drill. Your dinner comes in dodgy brown bowls or smells suspicious, pets. You deserve to know this. Button Up Box makes fresh dog food with ingredients you find in a human's fridge. In fact, some humans have even tasted it. For quality control, obviously. Anyway, let's hope your human was listening. Button Up Box. Fresh food, happy dogs. Try Button Up Box today and get 25% off your first 2 boxes. Offer available online in the UK and to first-time customers only.
At TfL, we're opening up more of London for everyone with step-free access. We're continuing to improve accessibility at many of our stations, and now over 200 stations and counting have step-free access, including the entire Elizabeth Line, DLR and all tram stops. That is how we're making the greener way to travel more accessible to all. Search TfL Improvement Plan. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters. Greener than total estimated petrol and diesel car emissions.
Thomas Walbridge. Call 0345 606 973 text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
5:35 the time. Neil, Philip, we'll get to your calls in just a few moments. First,
in some ways, individual people's apparent politics is seen as something that justifies turning a blind eye. Turning a blind eye to their character, their associations, and their own judgment. I know and understand the importance of acting to ensure national security is not put at risk. I only wish we could all be so sure that the former ambassador to the United States had similar concerns.
and that's a Labour MP. That's Polly Billington, the Labour MP for East Thanet, talking about the Prime Minister's difficulties in having appointed Peter Mandelson, despite knowing what the Prime Minister says he now knew, which was an ongoing relationship with the convicted paedophile. Neil's in Croydon. Neil?
Hi, Tom. You're just amazed that everybody's seems to be pointing at perhaps there's a connection with Russia. Let me explain this to you, and these are all facts. Okay? Mandelson has distant family that are Israeli. Starmer has distant families with his wife that is Israeli.
His wife is Jewish.
Yes, but he has this he's openly said this. Israeli. Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was buried on the Mount of Olives in Israel, and we're still meant to be looking at Russia. What? Because maybe Epstein maybe trafficked a couple of Russian girls? Really? Come on. Israel are all over this, all over the files. Nobody's mentioned it.
Epstein had, I'll tell you what is definitely true, is that Epstein clearly had a relationship with a former Israeli Prime Minister, didn't he?
Not only did he have a relationship, he used to stay at his apartment. Andrew was seen coming out over and over and over again.
So if you, I don't know if you're listening to the show just after the news at 5, but from the former head of the Russia desk at MI6, the suggestion that were Epstein to have been an agent working for Russia, as our guest suggested is likely, or was likely, then his suggestion was that the Israelis might have been all over it too.
Yeah, the Israelis were all over it. The Israelis are behind it far more than Russia.
Well, I don't know that we can say that as factual.
I can. It's all over the Epstein files. Not only
it's
that.
Not over, sorry, sir. It's not all over the Epstein files that Epstein was a Mossad agent. That is definitely not all over.
No, it's not all over. It's not all over any files that Robert Maxwell was. Why was he married where Mossad are only buried? How comes then, in regards to the paedophile connection, how comes Israel takes American Jews that are convicted of paedophilia straight into Israel? No problem. No questions asked. Documented facts. Look it up.
Can you give an example of that?
About 6 to 7 months ago, a Jewish connection to the Mossad was arrested in Las Vegas. He was bailed for meeting up underage boys for sex, okay, and then he fled back to Israel. And there's been no extradition. There you go, there's one thing. You can look it up, Google it all.
And you think that is evidence of Israeli intelligence agencies protecting Epstein in order to get compromat on British higher-ups?
Not only British higher-ups, Epstein has got compromat on everybody, from the Clintons to royalty to the Saudis, the whole lot.
Well, certainly the Clintons are going to testify on Capitol Hill, so we'll see about that. Neil, you are describing the actions of Jeffrey Epstein, how they relate to Israel or Russia. We can't say for certain, but it is absolutely true to say that Epstein had a relationship with the former Israeli Prime Minister. That is true. Thank you very much indeed for the call. Next.
Having meltdowns, crying, sobbing the whole way. I would spend the day sobbing because I'd left him there.
These 6 autistic pupils have not been to school at all since the start of this academic year, according to a new survey showing that mental health issues were often behind high levels of school absence. Nearly 45% of the parents and children who responded to the UK-wide survey said they felt, quote, blamed by the government for absences. Yolanta Lasota is Chief Executive of Ambitious About Autism, who carried out the survey. Thank you so much for coming on the programme. So talk us through, if you would, the sort of the children and the families whom this is happening to. What is, for want of a better phrase, the extent of their need for their autism?
Sure. So today Ambitious About Autism is launching its campaign to highlight the experience that autistic children and young people have in education. And our survey shows that over 30 autistic pupils have missed up to a month or more of school since just this start of term. So that's a very short period. And the biggest cause is mental health. Over 62% said mental health. And a fifth were just out because the school couldn't meet their needs. And as we heard, parents felt not helped but blamed by government. I'm going to give you one story. So Sam lives in London. He's 13 years old. His mum told us that he was making a move from primary to secondary, a very large secondary school, and that really broke him because he didn't have the right support. And he doesn't go to school anymore. He's at home and home educated. he doesn't even leave his home. His mum said he's not recognisable since he was a young child. And all he needed was people to understand his autism, to give him a quiet entrance into the school, a quiet place to reset, consistent staff, less emphasis on things like uniform. But now, Sam's going to need an education that can help him with the rest of his education.
When you say, clearly there are autistic children who require support and can have that support within a mainstream setting. When you say things like less emphasis on school uniform, what type of thing are we talking about?
But we know that with young people, they're very sensitive to environments and clothing, and so just making some adjustments for them. And what we're talking about here is easy things to do, easy things that don't huge rules, don't cause a meltdown in school. They're about understanding the child and making those adjustments. And it's what's really behind this is the need to help mainstream schools to understand these children better, and to train teachers on how to make those adjustments and make sure that support is there so that they don't leave school. We know that's a very expensive thing for society because then they don't have jobs.
It's things like it's being flexible enough with the rules not to compromise the school environment as the teachers and the school senior staff would want it, but also allowing the child to feel like they can be there. For example, fidget spinners, big one in our house. That is allowed in school just about. I don't think that would have been allowed in my school.
I think it's all about making, it's common sense. It's about making those adjustments that you can to support a child to thrive and learn and achieve. And it's in everyone's best interest, the child's best interest, and families, because Sam's mum told us that she had to give up her job to keep Sam at home. So what we see is very large proportion of parents having to reduce working hours or give up their job to support a child. So it not only impacts the child, it impacts the whole family and our economy.
So do you think, Yolanta, that this can be resolved through better training for the teachers, because it's going to require a lot more resource, or whether there's a need for not a sort of specialist schooling, but a different type of flexi schooling that helps kids deal with autism?
Well, so what we believe is that 70% of autistic children are in mainstream school, and that's where they need to stay, because that's where they'll learn and thrive. And so we need to support them there. Of course, we need a range of kind of provision for different needs. We need special schools, we need alternative provision, but we really need to focus on strengthening mainstream school, but at the same time not removing children's rights as maybe has been suggested in the media.
Yolanta, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. Yolanta Lasota is Chief Executive of Ambitious About Autism, who carried out this survey. Louis, I know you want to have your say on that in just a few moments. I will come to your call. We're going to go to news headlines, after which I have a statement from Downing Street, which I'll read to you after the 5:45 news headlines. Amelia Cox.
Sir Keir Starmer has been forced to agree to release all documents on the appointment of Peter Mandelson to the Intelligence Select Committee. A man who drugged children at a summer camp to sexually abuse them has admitted also drugging his wife so she wouldn't wake up. And an 18-year-old is being questioned on suspicion of murder after a university student was stabbed to death in Leicester. LBC weather, spells of rain lingering in the north tonight. These will also move into southern areas, a low of freezing.
LBC travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise. One lane is closed before junction 23 for the A1M because of an accident. Penalties on the M25 clockwise. Two lanes are closed because of an accident before junction 6 for Godstone. There are also long delays on the M25 clockwise to junction 25 for Enfield after a van broke down. In West Wickham, Addington Road is partly blocked both ways at Halls Lane because of an accident. On the trains, because of problems with the signals, Thameslink have no service between Cambridge and Brighton, and there's major disruption on the rest of their network. Southern have no service between Epsom and London Bridge after a derailment at a depot this morning. There's also a reduced Southern service between London Bridge and Norwood Junction. And on London Overground, there's no Windrush line between Sydenham and West Croydon.
Coming up at 6 on LBC, Tonight with Andrew Marr.
A day of extraordinary parliamentary drama as the government goes into headlong retreat over the Mandelson affair. How long can Keir Starmer survive? Join me at 6.
Tonight with Andrew Marr from 6. Listen on our free Global Player app or the new LBC app.
That quiet moment behind the wheel. The perfect space to get your thoughts in order. With the stylish HR-V Hybrid, you get the head-turning design you want with the space and flexibility you actually need. Because every journey matters. Explore the full Honda range online at honda.co.uk. Honda, the power of dreams.
Call Tom Swarbrick 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Things are really heating up in the country's smallest house. Dang! Squealed me a mouse. We could save around £100 by setting the boiler flow temperature to 60 degrees.
And turning radiators down in rooms we don't use.
Interrupted Mo. Yes, Mo. Turn them down, not off, said Mia.
Plus finding and blocking drafts,
said Mo. Should save enough to increase our allowance. A little saves a lot. You could save around £100 a year off your energy bills with 3 tips at gov.uk/clean energy.
The world tour begins. As artists create the music we love, you could be right there in the mix. Calling all young creatives. If you want a career in music, then listen up. Global Academy have a new 6th form music production course. State-of-the-art studios, practical experience, hands-on learning with music professionals. Awesome! Apply now at globalacademy.com.
I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. Dominate your finances!
Sunday morning, listening to questionable financial advice from the FinTalk Bros on his social feed.
Drowning in green. Scale.
This is the moment Isaac chose to search Barclays Life Skills, get some better money intel, and save up for that new skateboard. They're helping young people become money confident. Search Barclays Life Skills. Barclays. Make money work for you.
Mummy, please can you tell me a bedtime story?
Well, once upon a time there was a very tired mummy who'd been busy all day, and basically she was too knackered to cook, so she ordered herself sweet and sour chicken, special fried rice and some prawn crackers on Uber Eats instead.
That's not a very good story, Mummy.
Great ending though.
When you've done enough, Uber Eats and get your favourite restaurants delivered. Check out for terms and restrictions.
To be or not to be.
Right now we're offering a range of incentives across Audi models.
That is the...
But only until the 28th of February. So stop whatever you're doing.
I'll be right back.
You can find yours online or at your local Audi centre. Audi. Technic. Terms and conditions apply. Selected models, retail customers and participating Audi centres only.
Tom Swarbrick, text 84850. This is LBC.
10 to 6 the time. I have in front of me the latest statement from Downing Street regarding the Prime Minister's position on Peter Mandelson. This is an example, folks, of Downing Street now in full crisis mode. Full crisis management mode. And having been in a few of those myself, I can tell you that I'm sure almost the entire building is now engaged in having to deal with the fallout from all of this. They are struggling to keep the story together and to keep the Prime Minister protected. So this is a statement that attempts to do just that. And it reads like this. Before Peter Mandelson was appointed, there had been reports that linked him with Jeffrey Epstein, including after he was first convicted. This was looked into as part of the appointment process, as the Prime Minister referenced today. Peter Mandelson lied to the Prime Minister, hid information that has since come to light, and presented Epstein as someone he barely knew. In September, new information revealed the depth and extent of the relationship that was materially different to what was known at the time of his appointment, and that he had utterly misled the Prime Minister. He was swiftly sacked. End statement. Everything changed, did it, in September? The idea that the Prime Minister did not know, as is being reported in the statement that he did know, that Mandelson had stayed at Epstein's apartment while Epstein was in prison. There were photographs of Mandelson with the paedophile, that Mandelson's relationship had continued with Epstein after Epstein was convicted for soliciting a minor for prostitution. Is that not true? The Prime Minister had no idea of this information, which was in the public domain at the time. So I stand to be corrected, as I always do. I'm very happy to change my mind when the facts change. I don't buy that the publicly available evidence was either not presented to the Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister was sufficiently unaware of it, that meant that he was content to appoint Peter Mandelson because he didn't believe the relationship with Epstein that Mandelson had was a particularly close one. Why were you in his flat when he was in prison? Oh, I wasn't very close to him, Prime Minister. I promise you I wasn't close to him at all. I barely knew. But you were in his flat after he was convicted for soliciting a minor for prostitution of a child. That's not going to be a problem. No, it won't be. But I barely knew the man, Prime Minister. I was only in his flat because... come on, really? This goes to the Prime Minister's judgment. And this is why he is in the body that he's in tonight. Because that is the heart of this story. The Prime Minister chose to put into the ambassadorial residence in Washington a man who he knew to have an ongoing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Philip's in Sandhurst. Philip.
It's making politics, Tom. To a certain degree, and I always get a little bit flustered when I'm on the radio with you, so please bear with me. To a certain degree, the machinations are to an extent irrelevant. The Labour Party stands at a crossroads here, where they can either support their leader in this matter, or in the long term they will lose the next election. Because I believe that the current situation as it is not enough for the opposition party and parties to bring down the government and its leader. But it's more than enough for the Labour Party to self-implode and enter a re-election of a new leader, which will take them back almost to where they started. To undo any good that they've been so poor at telling the country that they're doing. And therefore, I predict, I'll put my 5p on the table with you, Tom, that if Keir Starmer goes, the next leader of the party and Prime Minister will be brief, and Mr. Farage will take over at the next election. And Tom, just take a pause and think about that. And I'd like every Labour supporter and councillor and member of Parliament to think about the long term. That's all I've got.
Philip, I appreciate it. Put yourself across very well. Thank you very much again. Louis in Tunbridge Wells, you want to come to this autism story? Hi.
Hi, yeah, thanks for taking the call. Very simply, I have a very close relative whose daughter is autistic. She has been assessed and has been declared autistic from the age of 4. She is currently aged 11. She was in a special school for children with autism, and at the age of 9, she was supposed to be in the school till the age of 11 and then move on to another school. But at the age of 9, people decided that she was more advanced than the other children, so they decided to move her on. Unfortunately, the decision was made with no care, and as a result of it, she was left without a school for over a year. She was then left home tutored, with very badly done. She's now being looked after via social services, who they have now found her a school in Derbyshire.
I take it you're not from there?
Well, it's 180 miles roughly from where she was living.
So the error was taking her out of the school that was supporting her well, even if she perhaps wasn't being that stretched in it?
Yes. And because they decided to move her out at the age of 9 instead of 11, she jumped 2 school years, and they then couldn't find her at school for over a year.
It's so difficult, and you have my greatest sympathies, because it is so difficult. Getting a child who doesn't want to go to school, seeing them struggle in that school, seeing them depressed coming home, not excited about school. Kids at 9 years old should be, insofar as you can ever be, excited about school. It should be a place where fun is had. Yes, there might be a boring maths lesson, but that's what it should be about at that kind of age. Kids at that kind of age want to love their teachers. That's what they want. Louis, my best wishes to her. Thank you very much indeed for the call. Tom's in Woking. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. I just want to say that I think it's very exciting because, as a media person, for you to get involved in this. But actually, I think talking about Keir Starmer and whether we bring down the government, bringing down the government, that suits certain, let's say, some domestic political parties in some foreign countries. And I think that's what they're trying to do. What I'd rather do is keep the focus. Keep the focus on Manderson, because I want to take you back to the Chilcot inquiry, RAG, because let's add fuel to the fire, because there are certain stories allegedly that Manderson was involved in trying to keep that a private investigation, not a public. So we need to, while we're at it with Manderson, we need to keep the focus on him, not bringing down our government. I know it's very exciting.
Well, I think, Tom, whilst it might be considered exciting, it is pretty important the status of the current Prime Minister. And I think that there will be some Labour figures who might come to the conclusion that, well, let's do this sooner rather than later, because then you've got more time to implement the changes that we think people really want to see. And I don't think it's an outside shot that Angela Rayner is Prime Minister by the summer.
Yeah, but that's opportunism, and that's people playing with our country. This is politicking, and this is what I'm saying. We need to get people off that. We need people that represent our country.
True, but then you need to have a Prime Minister who performs rather better than this one. Tom, I have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Thanks for your calls today. You can listen back on our free Global Player app or the LBC app, where you can also stay up to date with all the latest news, videos and opinion. My God, there's a lot of it. Download the official LBC app for free from your app store now. Coming up at 7, Ian Dale next tonight with Andrew Marr.
Thanks, Tom. Confrontation and headlong retreat in the House of Commons after a poor performance by the Prime Minister over the Mandelson affair. Are we reaching endgame for Keir Starmer? I'll be joined by the former Cabinet Minister, Lord Hutton, who knows everyone involved very well, by Keir Starmer's biographer, Tom Baldwin, and by a woman who's represented 27 of Epstein's victims in the United States. We'll hear from journalistic supporters and critics of the Prime Minister, and we'll hear from our own political team as well, as we analyse what has been, by any standards, an extraordinary day in British politics. After that, we'll be looking as well at the Russian connection and at what's ahead for the other big figure in the Epstein story here, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Join me after the news.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 6 o'clock, the Health Secretary has told LBC claims Jeffrey Epstein had links to Russian authorities must be properly investigated. It follows allegations that the former US ambassador, Peter Mandelson, passed sensitive information to Epstein in 2009. Former head of the MI6 Russia desk, Christopher Steele, says he's not surprised.
The whole Epstein files, as they're coming out, are showing the extent of connections between Epstein and Russia. And I would argue this goes right back to the 1970s. My sources in America tell me that the American government, the American intelligence services assessment was that Epstein was recruited as early as the 1970s.
Peter Mandelson has previously denied any wrongdoing. An email seemingly sent by Ghislaine Maxwell appears to confirm the infamous photo of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Virginia Giuffre is real. It appears to contradict Andrew's claim that he never met Giuffre and his suggestion that the image may have been doctored. He denies any wrongdoing. A man has admitted drugging his wife so she would not wake up while he sexually assaulted 2 boys at a summer camp in Leicestershire. 76-year-old John Reuben gave Susan Reuben temazepam in July last year. And the Princess of Wales has issued a new personal video message to mark World Cancer Day. Kate tells how her own journey has moments of fear and exhaustion, but also ones of strength and kindness. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed up 87 points at 10,402. The pound buys $1.36 and €1.15. LBC weather, spells of rain lingering in the north tonight. These will also move into southern areas and lower freezing. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. It's 6 p.m. Now, tonight with Andrew Marr.
Good evening. Now, tonight, this is going to sound perhaps like a confession, even an embarrassing one. But here goes. I have always liked Keir Starmer. Worse, I think he is a fundamentally decent man in politics for the right reasons. So I say the following with genuine sadness. But I think we have entered the final stage of the Starmer premiership. I don't know exactly how or when the end will come. Often these things are a surprise, and there are circumstances, if nobody moves, if everybody waits back, in which he could carry on unhappily enough, at least until the summer. But listening to furious, disillusioned Labour MPs and reflecting on his frankly unconvincing performance earlier this afternoon on the Mandelson affair, it feels as if we have reached a tipping point. Too many misjudgments, too much authority lost, too little direction. I really see no way back. Now that's a solemn thing to say because, of course, we can't know what might follow. What about Ukraine? What about the bond markets? What about relations with Trump? I know. But politics is all about authority and direction. In the Commons this evening, the government has made a headlong retreat to stave off a massive rebellion. It's all about who has control over which Mandelson messages and documents are released. After insisting passionately it had to be number 10, Starmer seems now to be giving it up to MPs who are members of the Intelligence and Security Committee. Angela Rayner, the ousted Deputy Prime Minister, is being credited with saving his bacon after a panicky afternoon. But Downing Street's embarrassing surrender of control tells you by itself a lot. My assumption is that Starmer will now get through that vote. But then comes the by-election. And then come the Scottish and Welsh and local elections. And if they are remotely as bad as seems likely for Labour, then Keir Starmer's decision to appoint Peter Mandelson Washington ambassador, even while knowing, as he admitted today, that his friendship with Epstein continued after the latter's conviction for child sex offences, will be a big part of the story. And who is to blame for that? Well, let's go first tonight to a man who was succeeded by Peter Mandelson as business secretary in Gordon Brown's government, Lord Hutton. John Hutton. John, welcome to the show. Do you think that Keir Starmer made a serious error of judgment by appointing Peter Mandelson in the first place?
Well, it certainly looks like that tonight, doesn't it? And I think particularly after the revelation that he knew about Peter Mandelson's ongoing relationships with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction for a very serious sex crime. I think we'll have to hear from the Prime Minister about how he explains that. I understand he is saying that Peter Mandelson lied to him in response to his questions. But I think for many people, the fact that association continued after the point where I think most reasonable people would say, look, I'm afraid enough is enough, I think does make it extremely difficult for the Prime Minister. And I say that with a huge amount of regret, but I think this is a very serious moment for him. And I think he needs to reflect very carefully on everything to do with the appointment of Peter Mandelson to this particular role. I'll also say that, Andrew, with a lot of sadness too, because I saw at first hand the contribution that Peter Mandelson made to the governments which I was a member of. And I have nothing but praise for his role as a Secretary of State and as a leading member of the government. He did a great job for the country. But I think there have been so many serious lapses in personal judgment, particularly by Peter. It is the end clearly of his career, but it could well mark the end of the Prime Minister's time in office. Yes, I think so.
So you think this could actually be the as it were, the final days, not the final days, but the final weeks of
Well, I don't know for sure. I think there's a moment now where I'm sure the parliamentary party will be having some very serious reflections on the direction of the government. And I think the sense of the lack of purpose of the government, the lack of direction, the mistakes of judgment, it's been a very, very torrid time the last 18 months for the Labour government. And as everyone who's listening to this broadcast knows, there's no stronger loyalist to the party than myself. I've never ever voted against the party ever in my 20 years as a member of Parliament, and proud to serve under Gordon and Tony as Labour Prime Ministers, great Prime Ministers they were too, actually. But I think this government is in serious trouble, and I think someone needs to rescue it from the malaise it's in. And I would like that to be the Prime Minister, but I suspect that's probably a minority view in the parliamentary party right now.
If he were to rescue himself, his premiership, does he need to sack other people? Does he need to make big changes in number 10?
Personally, Andrew, I don't think that's going to really address the fundamental issue. The issue is the leadership from the Prime Minister, and I think unless that changes dramatically, I think the government is in serious trouble. I mean, you can be surrounded by great secretaries of state, and he's got many good people in the cabinet. You can have the best and brightest minds in the country working for you in number 10, and he's got many of those too, but it doesn't add up to a row of beans if the leadership from the top is just not there, and not there in a consistent way. And it's a very, very rough game, and we all know how tough the political process is. But I mean, I think this is a very serious moment, I think, for him and for the government, and we've got to emerge from this with greater strength and purpose and unity, and that is clearly now to the parliamentary leadership to provide.
The reason I'm asking that, John, really is that we've heard calls today, and I think we're going to hear more calls, for Morgan McSweeney to be fired as a result of all of this. It's always struck me that weak leaders blame and fire their underlings, the people that they've hired in the first place, and they have to take responsibility themselves.
That's absolutely true in my view. Again, I don't think it would make any difference right now, Andrew, who the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister was. If the Prime Minister himself is struggling in the way that he clearly is, I don't think the Prime Minister can be rescued by an avalanche of new parliamentary aides or aides in number 10. I think the change has got to come from the very top, not from sort of the other ranks of the government. And I don't know whether that change is possible tonight. It doesn't really look to me like it is.
Lord Hutton, John Hutton, on that solemn note, thank you very much indeed. Let's turn now to somebody who knows the Prime Minister very well, his biographer, Tom Baldwin. I think you like Keir Starmer as I like Keir Starmer, but you must be looking at the last few days with some despair.
I think Darren's feeling very frustrated by it. I mean, I was talking to him the other day about the stance he's taken against Trump, and he basically publicly announced what Trump had said about British troops at a very good moment, and forced Trump to back down, and that happened at 4:57 p.m. And at 5 p.m, Andy Burnham announced that he was standing for a by-election. Now, there is, every time they try and get off the floor, something arrives from a relatively clear blue sky and lands on their head. and it is frustrating for them. You can make the case that accumulation of blows means that now there's a moment that he can't recover. I would say gently that anybody who says in this very febrile, unstable political environment, in a pretty crucial time for this country and the world, they know exactly what's going to happen next, maybe making a mistake. I'm not going to predict he's going to stay. I certainly wouldn't predict that with any degree of confidence that he's got to go. And,
I think this is all well said, and I take that very well. But, let's talk a little bit about Keir Starmer, the man, because that's your speciality, as it were. Now, we can see that he has got flaws. He's not very good sometimes at judging people, and he can use lawyerly language, as he did in the House of Commons talking endlessly about process today, when it's not. But it isn't more than that. We need more than that, more than process. But he has also got extraordinary resilience, and in terms of how he will be absorbing what has been a really horrible series of blows for him in history there.
Yeah, I think they need a better story to tell about Prime Minister, a better story to tell about the country, and a better story to tell about the government. And it might be understood you would tell about Prime Minister Bill Clinton, he's taking more blows to the head than any man should, and who's still alive. And that, that resilience has to be turned into clarity about where they're going and a degree of confidence that he can deliver it. I don't think that's impossible. And I think the current story about the biggest scandal ever, whatever you want to call it, primarily, look, this is a scandal about what happened in the previous Labour government. 5 years before Keir Starmer became MP. Now there's a separate question which gives them the president to answer about what he knew when Peter Hammond was appointed as US ambassador. Now he's confirmed that he knew about continuing links with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction. So did the media, so did all those commentators who now said it was obvious at the time this would be a complete disaster and this was a scandal. They didn't report it as a scandal at the time. A lot of people said it was a masterstroke. And that's why I say this.
I didn't say it was open, because with Peter it always does.
I agree. And I've known Peter Mandelson for more than 30 years.
And that's what Keir Starmer should have known
I was
too.
a junior reporter in the Hartlepool Mail, and I can tell you it wasn't a particularly pleasant experience. So I've known him a very long time. I think he's always been drawn to work and power. He's a bit of a narcissist. I think the idea of putting me into the current Washington DC, which is like a sweet shop for work and power narcissism, wasn't a great idea. But the specific charge against him at the moment that he should have known about Pete Manson's continuing links with Jeffrey Epstein in a way that the media didn't already know. He is being examined by this inquiry, and people who prejudge that inquiry are not relying on facts and evidence and substance. They're relying on the usual Westminster currency of febrility and angst and mood, which is not a way that we should decide.
To be fair to some of my
yet again after 1 or 2 years.
To be fair to some of my colleagues in the media, Jim Pickard in the Financial Times knew all about Mandelson's using Epstein's townhouse in New York when Epstein was in jail, and went to the Prime Minister and told him about it and brushed to one side.
And Jim Pickard was an enormous amount of credit does. And certain journalists did talk about Epstein at the time. I look back at what I wrote at the time, and I said I thought it was a bit, that they were Manson to Washington. I didn't say it. But people accept Manson with such gravity that this is a scandal and Keir Starmer should have known. Do need to shake your head sometimes and look at what they wrote at the time.
A country with a little bit more journalistic humility would be a better country. I can agree with that. All right, John Baldwin, thank you for that. But it has been the most extraordinary day in the Commons, and our political editor, Natasha Clark, has been there all the way through. Natasha, bring us some of the key moments, because it's been absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, and before I do, Andrew, I just wanted to bring you some breaking news from the Met, who have said in the last few minutes or so that they've asked the government not to release certain documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein because they say it could undermine our current investigation. So this was exactly what Number 10 was hoping to be able to do earlier today, basically to release the proof of what Keir Starmer knew at the time of the appointment and what he didn't. And the Met have now stopped from doing so in the last.
And this is significant and difficult because, as I understand it, impropriety in a public office or something like that is the charge that they're going after Peter Mandelson for, which covers so much that it's very likely the crucial exchanges, the crucial things that the world of politics wants, the Kemi Badenoch wants to know, will be exactly the stuff that the Met is not allowing to be released.
Yeah, and on the surface of it, you might think, well, what's that got to do with it? Peter Mandelson's sort of emails to Jeffrey Epstein back in when he was business secretary, what's that got to do with Keir Starmer appointing him? But actually, if they are looking at a wider probe into misconduct in public office, the Prime Minister has in the House of Commons today accused him of lying to him and his team. So this probe is now basically being blown a lot wider open than we once thought it was going to be. And Andrew, it really has been an extraordinary day in the House of Commons, showing the depths of the chaos that I don't think we've really seen since the welfare vote last year from the Labour backbenches. It's giving echoes of Tory chaos, which we've of course seen as much over the years. Many people asking questions, WhatsApps flying around everywhere, and asking the same questions you are, is this time for the Prime Minister to go?
Crucial question would be, crucial moment rather, would be when Keir Starmer says, yes, I did know about the Epstein links when I reappointed Peter Mandelson. Yes. Big intake of breath.
House of Commons?
There was, and it was quite a shocking moment, and he answered the question, as he so rarely does, so very straightforwardly with a yes, and that's not something that the Prime Minister is very keen to do sometimes. But the fury from Labour MPs is absolutely evident today. The way it's been handled, the Prime Minister's decision, of course, to appoint him in the first place, it's looking like a crisis not just for the political establishment, but for the palace as well. So all of these things very much coming together in a very febrile House of Commons. We heard earlier from the former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn talking about the reputation that Peter Mandelson had before his appointment as ambassador and the knowledge the Prime Minister would have had of it.
He would have known the number of times Peter Mandelson was forced to resign, even from the Tony Blair government, because of his behaviour. He would have known Mandelson's record as an EU commissioner. He would have known all of that. And yet he still went ahead, apparently despite Foreign Office and other advice, to appoint Mandelson as the ambassador to Washington. What a shame, what a disgrace, what an appalling appointment to make.
And Andrew, crucially, we also heard today from the former Deputy Leader Angela Rayner interjecting today, demanding for the Intelligence and Security Committee to release the files rather than, as the Prime Minister wanted, the Cabinet Secretary.
Given the public disgust and the sickening behaviour of Peter Mandelson and the importance of transparency, in 2022 I proposed a humble address seeking information about PPE. Should we not have the ISC not have the same role now in keeping public confidence in the process?
And that voice, I suspect, will prove to be very, very important in the story of today. We're going to hear more from you later on, Councillor. Thank you so much. Now, we mustn't lose sight of the victims when we're talking about the political scandal that's gripped the media over the last week. There is one woman in America who perhaps understands the impact on victims better than anyone else, and that's Gloria Allred, the attorney who's represented more than 27 of Epstein's victims. Gloria, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Can I start by asking you whether you believe that it's credible that somebody like Peter Mandelson, who was on the island again and again and again, did not know what was going on?
Well, if he didn't know, he should have known. What did he think that all these young girls, so many of them under the age of 18, were doing there? Did he ask them why weren't they in school? Why weren't they with their parents? How long had they been there? Did they feel safe? Was anybody exploiting them or abusing them? Or was this just all fun and games? Fun and games for Peter Mandelson, apparently not fun and games for many of the survivors. So, this is not just about what we know that he did. And of course he's saying he didn't abuse anyone, that, that he's gay and didn't, but nevertheless, nobody should turn away. Nobody should act as though they don't know what's going on. If there's something unusual, and that would be unusual. For, maybe he didn't know if they were 12 or 14 years old, but if he was suspicious, he could have asked. And so we don't really know what he knew. We only know what he says he knew, and we only know what's in the files.
How important is it from the victim's point of view that he and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor come over to the stage and answer questions in Congress?
Well, I think they should. And the former Secretary of State, his wife, Hillary Clinton, are both going to testify before Congress, or at least before a congressional committee there. I think the Congressional Committee, the Oversight Committee, for example, should call to testify anyone who had some kind of relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, we don't know that Hillary Clinton, former Democratic nominee for president, whom I supported and knew. We don't know that she ever went anywhere where Jeffrey Epstein was. But I guess we'll find out. But having said that, yes, Andrew, formerly known as Prince, and Peter Mandelson, former UK ambassador to the US, should volunteer, even if they're not invited, to testify before Congress. And I think that, by the way, that Congress, since they're subpoenaing a former president, might want to indict the current president who Jeffrey Epstein said was his best friend. President also called Jeffrey Epstein a terrific guy. So I think it would be wonderful for him to come before Congress and tell this, but I don't think he will, because he indicated yesterday we should move on.
There is a warm invitation for him to chew over. Let me ask you one other aspect of this. We've all been watching these revelations, the new messages and the emails and so forth day by day, and some really terrible words used about some of the victims. Now, I assume your former clients or your current clients are also reading this stuff. What is the kind of effect on the victims themselves of this huge dump of information, about which, of course, they would know very little beforehand?
Devastating, increasingly traumatic. I have a number of survivors that I represent who have never spoken out. We have protected their identity for years. They have been Jane Doe. They have been brave enough to speak to FBI, Homeland Security, and prosecutors who promised them, and I was in their presence when the promise was made, that they would be known as Jane Doe. Their names would never be revealed unless and until they would be called to testify at trial. Of course, that never happened with Jeffrey Epstein. There was no trial because he died or was killed in the custody of the federal government Metropolitan Detention Center in New York City. And then most were never called to testify in reference to Ms. Maxwell's trial. And now they find that not only their names are online, Andrew, but driver's licenses, emails with Jeffrey Epstein back and forth, texts, photos of them.
Yeah. Well, this is another,
and out of context, so it's really harmful to their reputation. And I want to know: is the Department of Justice trying to punish them?
I was going to say, this is another little circle of hell for all the people who have gone through so much hell before. Gloria, thank you very, very much indeed for talking to me. Peter Mandelson's role in recent Labour history.